Okay, welcome back into the Racing Pigeon Podcast with Kevin and Wes, and we're going to jump right into our first segment. We had a good time on our first episode and got some good feedback, so we want to get back to the basics again. And I think we're going to start out today by talking about how birds get home. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically. We call it homing, right? They're called homing pigeons. So what does homing mean? Homing means finding your way home. We can take a bird 300 miles away, uh, where it's never been before, let it go, and that bird will find its way home 9 times out of 10, right? So how does that happen?
You asking me?
Right?
I don't.
Yeah, you don't know, right?
That's the reason I'm here to learn, right? You're the
Yeah.
expert. I'm not.
Well, unfortunately, we don't know. That's the real answer.
It's like
Uh,
going to the doctor and say, just take this pill.
yeah,
Why? I don't
exactly,
know.
right?
Just
Yeah,
take
really. I mean, I just give you this bird and say, trust me, take it over here and let it go. Trust me, it'll come home, right?
it.
So,
Well, but with
uh,
some history on that, I mean, your racing pigeons, I think you told me last time we talked about this off air, when they were first breeded back in what, the 1800s, did you say? 17, 1800s? Part of the part of the breed was a homing pigeon or carrier pigeon?
a carrier pigeon, yeah,
Yeah.
yep. And then they crossbred it into some birds that improve the speed of a carrier pigeon. A carrier pigeon is pretty slow,
Oh,
so
okay.
they crossbred that into some other faster breeds of pigeons to create what we now call the modern racing homer.
Okay.
Um, but I think the thing we need to talk about first is maybe orientation versus navigation, right? Because those two things are really key as to how a bird figures out how to get home. So if I ask you what does orientation mean, now I know you're a boat captain, you go out in the
Yeah, I mean,
ocean,
orientation
and it
and
freaks me out
navigation,
because you can't see anything. So how do
that's
you
the
know where
fun
you
part
are in the
now.
middle of the ocean?
So yeah, I mean, definitely in those context, orientation and navigation, I'm taking they have the same kind of application with the birds.
Yep, they do. Absolutely. So how would you orient if you well, if you put me on a boat, blindfolded me, took me 300 miles offshore, you know, what is the first tool I'm going to use to figure out, where
Well,
I am and
today,
and where home might be?
today GPS, but I'm
Well,
thinking
pigeons
I
don't
don't
have
think I don't think
GPS,
your
Wes.
pigeons are using GPS, right? Or
No,
are they
so
global positioning system? I mean, they have a positioning system in their brain, correct? That's kind of you
well,
really think about it. That's really what they're doing, except
that
it's
actually
natural.
that actually is right. Yeah.
But for
So
it, before technology, the sailors used the stars, the sun. I mean, if you ever get offshore and you lose your electronics, I mean, the first thing you do is you see where the sun's heading. It sets in the west, and if I'm off the east coast, I'm going to head west. I
yep,
probably will not hit the inlet that I want to be at, but at least I'll be near shore again. That's the
exactly
key.
right. Exactly, right? And that's exactly what we think the pigeons do. When they first get released in a new area, the first thing that a pigeon will do is they will fly in circles above where you let them go. They'll do that for as many as one circle, or I've seen sometimes where they'll circle 5 or 6 times. What those birds are doing in that moment is they're trying to orient themselves. They're trying to figure out, okay, where am I in relation to where I want to be, right? To where home
So,
is.
what's the theories of what they're orientating to? Magnetic fields,
Well,
right?
so the first theory is the same as the sailor. A bird is, they key in on the sun.
Really?
So pigeons do not fly at dark. Okay, they're not a nocturnal bird. They don't fly in the dark, so they don't use the stars and the moon per se. They use the sun. That's the first thing they use, and we call that their sun compass. So a bird knows based on where the sun is in the sky, that gives them a good idea of where they are. Second thing that we feel a pigeon uses is the electromagnetic pulses of the earth, which I know sounds crazy, but scientists have actually found a pseudomagnetic like substance inside of a pigeon's nostrils. And so we do feel like the pigeons do have some sort of an apparatus where they can sense different magnetic pulls of the earth. And in that way, a pigeon can know north from south. right? They should
Okay.
know where magnetic north is. So we feel like they use the sun and their magnetic senses to initially orient themselves to figure out, hey, where are we? We're not at home anymore. Where are we? Now that's when navigation kicks in, right? Because again, if you're in the middle of the ocean, you've now determined what direction is west. Now you have to actually
Yeah, head that way.
navigate there,
Right.
head that way, right? And so that's what the pigeon does. After it orients itself, now it's on its way to where it thinks home is. And that's navigation. So navigation is simply getting from point A to point B, right? Um, so that's the difference between orientation and navigation. Now, for sailors, that's something you learn, right?
Right.
Yeah, you're not born with that innate ability.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, I say
No,
that.
no.
No,
I've
no,
been out on
no.
the boat with you, and trust me.
Well, I'm not born with it, but I will say that I do know captains that are. I mean, there was
Really?
my father's best friend, a guy named Tommy, who was a East Coast champion captain in sports fishing. He had an innate sense that was born into him. I mean, about
Oh,
different things about fishing. So I stop you because, yeah, most of us, like
interesting.
me, probably definitely you, I'm sure, we don't have that natural instinct of what to do. We have to, it's a learned process. But
Yeah.
just like you're talking about with birds, there are some humans, and I think this goes across different disciplines too, that some people have certain knacks that just kind of was born into them. So it makes sense.
You might be right, actually. Um, and there's obviously pigeons that find their way home easier than other pigeons.
Yeah.
So there may be something to that as well. Um, I guess that gets into kind of an argument about, nature versus nurture, right?
Right.
Is a homing pigeon born with the ability to find its way home, or is that something you have to teach it? Um, and we feel for the most part that we do have to teach it. I mean, like you, there may be some birds that have an innate or enhanced ability to just be able to orient and navigate. Uh, but probably 90% of the birds don't. So I would say we have to teach that, right? And so that's where training comes into play. That's where, we start in the backyard where the bird lives. You let the bird out the first time as a baby. They generally don't fly. They generally go out, sit on the edge of the loft, where you keep
Mm-hmm.
them,
Right.
and they just look around. They just look around. And then the next time you let them out, they might fly up to the roof and they might sit on the roof and look around. A bird won't fly generally the first couple of times you let it out. It'll fly somewhere and just sit. What they're doing is they're learning where they live. They're
Mm-hmm.
observing. They're looking at the trees, the structures, the buildings, the everything around them, right? And then once they get brave enough, they'll actually take flight. But they won't leave. They just circle over their house. And that's all they do.
Hmm.
That's all they do. Even my old pigeons, 2 or 3 years old, if I let them out right now, all they do is fly up and they just make big circles. I may not, they may go out of sight for a minute or two, and then I see them, they circle out. They don't leave. They don't leave the area.
Hmm.
Um, so with babies, you want them to do that. That's the first thing you want baby birds to do. We call it routing. You just want them to circle all around home. And what they do, Wes, as they get older, the circle gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right?
Gotcha.
The birds are mapping where they live when they do this.
Hmm.
Okay. So they're mapping water towers, cell phone towers, highways, rivers, lakes. They learn all of the things around where they live. We're pretty sure about this. So here's what happens. When you let that bird go 300 miles away, it goes up and it circles. It orients. Which direction is home? Now we use our sun compass and our magnetic compass to go in the right direction. So we're flying southeast or west or whichever way home is, we're going. Now, what we have found is that once the bird gets within about 10 miles of where it lives, at that point, it becomes visual. The bird uses its eyes and it looks to see where home is at that point. So it may come home 10 miles south of the loft. And then once it gets 10 miles south of the loft, it might be like, oh, oh, that highway. I recognize that highway. I need to turn left here, and I know my home is up there. We have actually discovered that that is true.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
from a distance, they use the sun, the Earth's magnetic pulses. But as they get closer and closer to home, once they get into the territory they've mapped out in their mind, then they use landmarks and visual aids to take them the last little way home. So it's really fascinating, right? And so this is why young birds, so babies, they need a lot of training at first. We have to train them. You take them 3 miles away, let them go a couple times. Then you take them 5 miles away, then 10 miles away, then 20, then 30. And you got to just keep training them, keep letting
Hmm.
them come home. Because every time they fly home, they have made more mental notes about different things around where they live. It's really, really fascinating. The
So how
first
far?
time
What's the farthest you take away from your house when you're training before you ready for a race?
I try to go out 90 miles,
Oh wow. Okay.
I try to have them out 90 miles,
Oh, so you can come to my house and let them out.
which is basically your house. Yes. Our first race is what's the exit where you live right there? I always
Uh,
say the name wrong.
Lugoff.
Yeah, Lugoff. That's right.
That's more than
So
90 miles, though, isn't it? That's about, well, I guess as a bird flies, it gets about 90 miles.
yeah, exactly. So actually, Lugoff is about 110 miles from my house.
Okay.
So remember, I'm the long end in our club.
Right.
Uh, so I don't quite go to Lugoff to train. I think I go. I'm the next exit up. I forget what that one is, but I don't quite go out to Lugoff. But I get them almost out to the first training spot.
Okay.
Um, but and I only do that one time, but I get them out 50 miles, 70 miles. Like there's different spots I take them. But you got to train them, right? So these birds, even though they're homing pigeons, you can't take a bird that's never been out of its house, drive it 500 miles away, let it out, and expect it to come home.
Right.
It might, but it would be like the captain you're telling me about. It just has that innate ability.
Innate ability, yeah.
Most birds are not going to be able to come home in that scenario.
Gotcha.
You've got to train them to be sure. Um, but that's kind of what we know about how racing pigeons actually find their way home. But we don't know 100%. Just like, how do birds migrate thousands of miles, from Antarctica to wherever? We don't know. They just do, right? But we have some pretty good ideas at this point. But it's
Interesting.
just fascinating. Yeah, it's
Awesome.
it's fascinating.
Cool. Well, that's another lesson as we head forward. Next week, we'll have another one in our first segment. But I think our next segment, we'll have an interview, correct? Who's the
Yeah,
gentleman
that's
coming
right.
on the interview?
I think Frank Johnson's going to join us. He's a racer up in Wisconsin, and he's going to talk to us
Wisconsin or
about
Minnesota?
uh, one
Two
of them.
twin. You mentioned the
I
Twin
know,
Cities, so
I know it's a very cold place. So
I think it was I think it was you mentioned the Twin Cities, so that's
yeah,
Minnesota.
yeah, he flies the Twin Cities concourse, but he's up there somewhere in the
So
in the
Wisconsin,
frozen
Minnesota,
tundra.
and it's cold this time of year anyway.
It's
All
going
right, well, let's take a
exactly.
break here, and we'll come back and talk to him, and we'll see you on the other side.
Sounds good. All right, pigeon people, listen up. And yes, I know you're out there. If you're tired of your birds giving you that, you could have upgraded me by now. Look, it's time to visit rpauctions.com. This is the hot spot where racing pigeon breeders buy, sell, and outbid each other like it's the Super Bowl of feathers. The site's easy to use, the birds are top notch, and the bidding gets, let's just say, intense. So do your loft a favor. Head over to rpauctions.com and find a bird that won't judge you every time you walk by. All right. Well, welcome back to another segment of Racing Pigeon Podcast. This is Kevin. Happy to be back with you here. And we are joined today by a special guest, Mr. Frank Johnson, who races up in Minnesota. And he's here today to talk a little to the podcast. And if you would, give us a brief introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I race with the Viking Club in Minnesota, in Twin City area. I'm the recording secretary and treasurer for the Viking Club, the chairman of the board and the treasurer for the Twin City Concourse, and the president of the Midwest Association. So I do a few things. I'm kind of busy all the time with paperwork and bookwork and doing stuff, I guess. So I like to volunteer my time. So
Hey, sounds like you stay very busy.
I do.
When did you start racing pigeons?
1979 was my first year, and then I raced for like 10 years, and then I had to get out of pigeons because my first wife and I got divorced and stuff, and I ended up working construction for probably 20 some years, traveling a lot, but I always had the pigeons on my mind, couldn't wait to get back into it. And then I finally did. I ran into an old friend who he had the place to race, and he was about 10 minutes from my house. And so we partnered up and raced out of his place. And I mostly took care of the birds. He did farming and was busy on the weekends at the farmers market, so he didn't have the time to be there to race. But worked out as good partnership. We're still partners today, and we race strictly out of my coop in Wisconsin now, just over the border from the Twin Cities. So.
Oh, nice, nice. And would you mind telling us about some of your biggest kind of accomplishments or things you're proud of in the sport that you've accomplished?
Well, I seem to have pretty good luck winning the overall champion bird and for overall distance every year, it seems like, but I didn't last year, but I come close to that. And then, the average speeds, champion law things is what I shoot for. And of course, you want to win every race you're in. It doesn't matter if it's a 100-mile race or a 600-mile race. That's the goal for
That's
everyone. So that's what I try and do. Doesn't always happen. So.
how many members are in your club up there, Frank?
The Viking Club has, I believe, 27 active members, but they don't fly always every race. Some just fly old birds, some just fly young birds, some fly both. So it's a
Okay.
long season when you start the first weekend in May and end up the last weekend or the first weekend in October. So it's a
Yes,
lot
it
of
is. Yeah.
racing.
A lot of racing, a lot of fun
And,
though.
and we do our old birds were probably one of the last places in the country. We fly two 300s, two 400s, two 500s, 600-mile races. All of or like our fours and fives, we'll do a double race, a two and a five or four. Truck
Wow.
driver on the way down, he lets the 200 go on Friday, and then Saturday we'll let the 500s go. So,
Wow. Wow. Yeah,
and
that's kind of unheard of anymore today. So
and in
that's
young birds
amazing.
we have three releases. So we have three races in young birds. So you get
Oh,
21 races over a 7-week period. So,
wow. Wow. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Um, Great, Frank, and thanks again for joining us. And today I want to focus on, our podcast is kind of for newer people to the hobby, and so I want to focus today on what makes a winning race pigeon, right? I mean, there's hundreds of pigeons. What makes a pigeon be a race winner? What makes the winning bird win the race, right? So,
just
what kind of traits would you kind of look for? Like you have these babies, right? You breed these baby
yeah.
birds. You're sitting there in like July, August, you're looking at them. What gives you a signal? What gives you like a key, like to look at a bird and be like, yeah, that bird's gonna fly good. What kind of things would you look for?
Well, it's I don't know if there's any physical characteristic you can look for. It's just what I've learned over the years is that's just something that's in that bird. You can raise 50, 100 pigeons. You're only going to get a few good ones every year. And excuse me a second. Well, what you have to do is you have to send them to the races. And in the beginning, you have to go by what comes home first. There's no uh, eye sign or flight feathers or wing patterns or I mean it's in the beginning it's all about who's the first one home. It has to be. And in young birds, birds that come home and young birds means nothing in old birds. Old bird racing is time. Takes time. They should be 2, 3 years old before you're sending them to the long races. And you could take 1,000 young birds that win at 300 miles. Maybe one's a good long distance flyer in old
Wow.
birds. It's just time and patience, and who comes home first.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's little things you can look for. They should all the things. The roof of the mouth that slit should be open, and
Yep.
the flight feathers, no blood quills, things like that. Pink skin, warm feet. They'll just sit there on the perch, nice and calm, and they just have that thing inside them that makes them come home first.
Hmm.
Not only have to have good homing instincts, pigeons have to have good navigational skills too, and
Yep.
that only comes from racing them.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
there's
Very
things you
true.
can do, everyone has little tricks to do in old birds, but young birds fly to the feed. Wind
Yep.
plays such an important part of your success racing. You know, if you're like our concourse is really spread out east to west, good 100 miles, really
Yep.
flyers on each end, and the wind makes a big difference on them shorter races.
Oh
And of
yeah.
course, in old birds, the long races, that's hard. And
Yeah.
that bird has to have that thing inside him to make him keep coming.
Yeah.
So,
So I hear from you, it sounds like the heart is
yes,
the biggest reason the bird wins. And that's something we can't see,
you can't
you
see
know.
that. No,
You can't see it. Exactly. Which makes the sport even more fun, doesn't it?
it does. It's a lot of patience, a lot of documentation, a lot of reviewing your documentation, and just see what works for you.
Yeah.
What works for me might not work for you. So
Yep. That's going to be a recurring theme over the podcast, I believe.
yes,
There's a thousand different methods and ways of doing things, and what works for one flyer doesn't work for another. And it's another thing that keeps the sport, the hobby, so darn interesting, you
yeah,
know,
it is.
um, because what works for me may not work, in Wisconsin where you are.
Yep.
So very interesting. All right, let me ask you this: give us one pigeon that you've flown, could be any time during your racing career, that surprised you, that shocked you, that did something that you just would never have expected that pigeon to do.
Well, I have a bird last couple of years named her Diamond Joe, not after our casino, but after my wife. So um, she sent her to the 600-mile race. I had some extra hens and she was mated up to another hen. So I was going to send her mate to the 600 because she had the experience, but then I picked her up and something just said, send her instead because she has the blood and the genetics. Her father was AU ace long distance bird for me. So I sent her and she was a day bird on the 600 and took second place in the
Wow.
combine. There was only two day birds
Oh
from
my
Blackwell,
goodness.
Oklahoma back to the Twin Cities. It's 13, little over 13 hours.
Mm.
And then this year I sent her to the first 500 and she was a day bird again taking third place. I was also first in the race, first and third. Then I
Okay.
sent her back to the next 500, and she was a daybird again, taking first place in the combine.
Oh my
So to reward
gracious.
her for all that, I sent her back to the 600 again. So, but she was not a daybird. She was the next day later in the day, but she came home, so I was happy for that. So that kind of surprised me. Not that she would do well once, but that she did well so many times.
So many times, yeah. So hopefully she'll be moving to the breeder loft this year.
Maybe. I haven't decided yet. But I got to make that decision pretty quick. So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, well, that's perfect, Frank. Now, Frank, in this podcast previously, we talked about the fact that a lot of the clubs, combines, they have recently, well, not recently, they've done it for many years actually, but they've started offering money races or special races for their club flyers. I think also some of the clubs use them as fundraising opportunities as well, I believe. So I know out there where you are, or up there, out up there where you are, in the frozen tundra, you guys have a lot of special races up there. Do you want to talk to us about some of those different races and how they work and who can enter them, and give us all the info about that?
well, with the Twin City Concourse, we have what's called the nomination race, where you just nominate your birds. That's uh, kind of a little bit of it's $25 per bird. So we had issues with, we had some guys that want to fly large lofts, have and want to fly a lot of birds, and other guys in the Twin Cities, you have to have a permit to have pigeons, and they have small lofts and it can only have a few pigeons. So we stuck a third race in there. So the guys that want to send a lot of pigeons, they could pay the $25 and have them in that category, where we could keep our other two races, which
Gotcha.
have limits, a 5 bird limit and a 25 bird limit, and for the small lofts. So we have 3 releases and a half hour apart. And
Oh my
that seems to have been working out pretty good. But that race, it depends the nomination race, how many birds are in it, how much the payout is. And we try to have it a payout on a 300 and a 350 is what we did last year. So
Nice.
this year we're hosting the Midwest Convention Youngbird Race. So that'll be based on, we want to try and get 1,000 birds in that. And that'll be based on how many pigeons are actually entered.
Okay.
So,
Now, can out of area breeders send to those races?
oh, absolutely. There'll be advertisements coming out in the Racing Pigeon Digest, and we'll have it out on Pigeon Central and other areas. So that'll be all coming out here real quick. So.
Okay. Is there a website for either of those organizations that people can go to?
No, we used to have one, and then everybody was like, "Oh, why?" Nobody would really wanted to run it, and then nobody used it. Everybody uses Facebook, so our combine voted to get rid of the website and just use Facebook. So that's what we do.
Okay. So what would the Facebook name be called? What would people look for?
Twin City Concourse.
Twin City Concourse. Okay.
Yes.
And is there any other races out there that
Well,
are play
yes, in
races?
Old Birds we have the Midwest Topeka race, which is all the states in the Midwest basically participate. Wisconsin, Northern Illinois, Chicago, South Dakota, Iowa. We all have that. That's been going on for many years. Over this year, instead of just having the one from Topeka, which that's about 430 miles for the Twin City area,
Mhm.
we're going to do one from Iola, Kansas, which will be a 500, and Blackwell, Oklahoma, which will be a 600. And then we'll have a average speed winner for the 3 races and a Midwest Golden Wing winner, champion bird winner for the 3 races. Something new. Anyone who wants to participate in them races can. And if
Mhm.
you just want to fly the Topeka race like we always have, you can do that as well. So it's something
Interesting.
new, and all the information will be going out to all the race secretaries. Some stuff has been posted already on it. So we'll see what we can get. But
Okay.
last year, the Twin City Concourse and Heartland Federation merged together for the 600-mile race from Blackwell, and we had 601 birds in that race. So we're hoping to get a good 1,000 birds this year and
Yeah,
build on it from there. So,
not bad at all. Be quite an accomplishment to win that race.
yes, it would be.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that
Especially
is
it's in July, so it's always in the high 90s with high humidity, and but we've been doing it for the last
wow.
75, 80 years, so the birds do just fine. So
Wow. This is an old bird race, you said, right?
yes, that's
Yeah,
old
okay.
birds.
Wow. That's amazing. That's super. Well, it sounds like you guys have a lot going on out there in the Midwest. So I'm kind of jealous, to be honest with you. We don't have anything like that down here. No combines, no concourses, no federations, nothing. We have one little club. So quite jealous of you, Frank. Well, is there any parting words you want to leave us with before we wrap this up?
No, just thank you for having me on, and hopefully everyone has a good year and a happy new year, I guess. So
Yeah. Same to you, Frank. And if you're willing, we'd love to have you on, later in the future
okay,
for some more episodes.
all right, that would be fine.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Frank.
All right, thank you.
Take care. All right, pigeon people, listen up. And yes, I know you're out there. If you're tired of your birds giving you that, you could have upgraded me by now. Look, it's time to visit rpauctions.com. This is the hot spot where racing pigeon breeders buy, sell, and outbid each other like it's the Super Bowl of feathers. The site's easy to use, the birds are top notch, and the bidding gets let's just say intense. So do your loft a favor. Head over to rpauctions.com and find a bird that won't judge you every time you walk by.
Okay, welcome back to the Racing Pigeon Podcast. This is our last segment for this week, and we're going into the one loft racing. And I think one of the first questions I would ask you would be, how do I find one? What's the best one loft race for my training? How do you go about that?
Okay. So the one loft races most of them can be found at a website called wincompanion.com.
How you spell that?
Um,
Win, W-I-N?
WIN, then companion.com.
Okay.
Okay. So if you go there, that's going to give you a list of, now it's not every single one loft. There's a couple that don't use that website,
Right.
But that's going to give you 98% of all the one lofts in the USA. And I think there's some from Canada on there as well. Now there are one loft races all around the world. Those you would find in different places. Of course, I'm not going to talk about those, but there's one loft races in South Africa, the Philippines, Indonesia, Europe. They're popping up all over, to be honest with you.
I would think
But for
shipping a bird
America,
there would be very expensive, wouldn't it?
yes, and you have
it's not like going to the post office like you do here. It's international shipping and live animals.
yes and no. So you would mail your birds to an agent and an
Right.
export agent.
Right.
So you would find those, and that's a way more involved issue.
Exactly.
We
yeah.
may dive into that, in a
Down the
year or
road.
two podcast. Yeah, from someone that actually has done that. I have never sent birds to international one loft. I know people that have. So that would be something we would want to bring a guest on for. But for the United States one lofts, go to wincompanion.com and you can look them up there. So that's where you find them. Which one should you enter? That's a $1 million question, Wes. So first of all, you're going to have want to have flown your birds at the club level for at least a year.
So don't jump into one loft racing.
There's various schools of thoughts on this. There are some people that cannot race in their backyard. They can't club race.
Okay.
Either because there is no club near them, or they have restrictions of some sort. Could be personal restrictions, like their work schedule doesn't allow, for training. Right. And so there are some people that just breed birds and just send the babies out to one loft races.
Right.
If you're going to do that, what you need to do is when you buy your breeders, and these will be future segments we'll cover.
Well,
when you buy your breeders, you
what's
would
a breeder?
Need to buy proven breeder birds.
Okay, well, hold on a second now. What's a breeder?
Yep. So a breeder is a bird that you buy from somebody else that you buy with the sole purpose of breeding from.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to get terminology down.
Yep.
So when you buy your breeders, going from there, when you buy your breeders, what do you look for?
So if you're not going to be able to fly in your club, you're going to have to go to top one loft breeders, guys and gals that have been winning one loft races with their birds for years and years, and try to acquire birds from them. If you can't test your own, you're going to have to breed from something where the bloodlines have already been proven. It's a gamble, kind of like playing the lottery. Right. But I know people that have been successful doing that, but you are going to spend a lot of money. Okay. If you start club racing, you can get a lot, cheaper birds, prove them to yourself, figure out which ones are good. And then you can start sending those out to one loft races and testing them that way.
Gotcha.
In that situation, you would want to look for one loft races that you think your birds would do well at. Now, on that website, wincompanion.com, when you go into a race, you can look up what's called the archives. So you can go back into that race's history and see that race every year, the results. What you would do is go into those results and you would look at the different speeds that the races get. So, for instance, races in Florida tend to be very fast races. 15 to 1,800 yards per minute typically wins the races in Florida. But you get the races out in California, 1,100 yards may be the winning speeds out there.
Why is that? Is that weather conditions or?
weather conditions, different race course in California. They're flying over up and down mountains, through passes. Florida, it's flat. It's a straight shot, boom. But most of it, Wes, depends on the winds. So the
Okay.
wind direction, whether
All
the
right.
birds are flying against the wind or with the wind. The problem in Florida, geography, which direction do all the birds have to fly in Florida?
I would think west east.
No, you're not going to take them out in the Gulf of Mexico. They're going to have to
Oh, I
fly
see what you're saying. Okay.
north to south, right? Yeah.
I was thinking of winds coming across, so you got to
No,
go north
no,
to
right?
south, south to north, north to
Yeah.
south.
So they're always flying north to south. And if you look at the weather map, which way is the prevailing winds usually blowing? Northwest, northeast, something
Gotcha.
like
Okay.
that. So they usually have some sort of a tailwind. So a bird that flies well in California may not fly well in Florida. A bird that flies good in Florida almost certainly is not going to do real well in California. Now, there are birds that can fly well in both, but generally speaking, not. There's
Well,
a saying.
that brings up a good question in that do you look for races depending on which direction they're flying based on your breeding? Do you actually take all that into account?
You do, absolutely. So all the one loft races, majority of them, when you go to their website, which you can again go to wingcompanion.com, that'll get you onto all the different websites for the one loft races. But they all put the race course on there. A lot of them will even have a map showing you, this is the first race, second race, this is where
Mm-hmm.
home is. They literally draw lines. And yes, that is all the research you need to do before you spend hundreds of dollars sending birds away to a race. Don't send your birds to the wrong race. You got to know what kind of birds you have, what kind of winds your birds like to fly in, what kind of speeds your birds like, right? That's the first part of it. But there's more. When we talk about one loft races, they don't all have the same reputation. Um, Now, we're not going to put, any races down or any one loft race managers down, but there are one loft races that train better than others. And remember, we covered in our other beginning segment the importance of training, right? And so you want to send your birds to a one loft race where the manager is going to train similar to how you train at home. If you know your birds are doing really well at home, then you want to look for someone that trains similar to you. You're not going to find anybody that's going to be exactly the same as you, but you try to find someone that trains similar to you because you know your birds.
Right.
Again, if you don't fly in the backyard, it becomes more of a crapshoot for you. Generally, if you're just buying birds that have flown in one loft races or from breeders that have been successful in one loft races, you're going to want to look and see, well, hey, this bird's brother flew really good at the Crooked River one loft race. So maybe I'll send those babies back to that race because I know that his father or grandfather flew really good out there. That's the best you'll have to go on. But if you're a club racer like me, you actually look for one loft races that are similar to the conditions that your birds fly in at home. But that's all part of the fun and challenge of the game. Now, how do you know about the reputation of a one loft race if you're a new person getting into the sport? What I would say is go back and look at the archives of the different one loft races. It shows you the number of birds in each race. You want to look at races that each year the number of birds that have flown in the race are increasing. That tells you that the handlers are doing a really good job. And so each year, more guys are sending birds there.
Okay.
Conversely, if you look at races where the entries are declining year over year, well, that's probably what we would call a red flag. And you probably want to avoid that race or maybe watch it for one more year and see what happens, right? So that's kind of my go-to as far as how I can determine, the reputation or how good a race is going to be. Now, once you're in the hobby and you know a lot of people and you talk, you'll just learn, oh, this is
Right.
not a great race. This is a great race, but a new person, just do research. Just do a lot of research on your own,
It's like you
kind of
need
form your own opinions.
do research and also keep good records as you go
Keep
through.
very good records. Yeah, absolutely. If you send birds to a race and they do really well, then note that. Keep records, of who are the parents, for that bird, and you have to keep good records. Most pigeon breeders that have been in the sport for a long time, they have old notebooks just
Hmm.
full of notes. Today, I keep all of mine records on Excel.
Right.
Obviously,
Yeah.
it's just much easier, right? But somehow keep good records. Absolutely. Um, what else should we talk about with one loft races? Can you trust them?
I would
You're
hope
paying
so.
them hundreds of dollars. How do you know their best friend isn't going to win the race, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's all about reputation. You
Right.
know, look at the races. If the entries are increasing year after year, again, that's obviously an indication that that's a fair race. It's a good race. People are continuing to send birds there. Again, entries declining. That could be a race that has issues of some sort. Um, there are some one loft races that when they get the birds, they cover the identification band on every bird. So once the bird enters the loft, there is no way for anyone working at that race to know whose bird is whose.
Oh, okay.
And I like that. The Florida Pigeon Derby does that. I think there's a couple others. I think that's, being very transparent in the fact that, hey, we do not know whose bird is whose. This is a completely, everybody's got a fair shot, right?
Right.
I would like to see more one lofts doing that myself, but it is an extra step, on them.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but I think that's the ultimate kind of like, hey, you can trust us. So look at this. We're just blacking out everyone's numbers. Every bird is a blank slate. Every bird's treated equally. So most one loft races, are legit. They don't stay in business if they're not.
Right.
And
Yeah.
let's face it, the people running the one loft races are not doing it out of the kindness of their heart. It
Right.
is a business for them
Oh
as
yeah.
well. So they want to grow their business. And so, they have an incentive to, you know, do things on the up and up. So for the most part, as far as the one loft races listed on the Wing Companion website that we looked at, most of them are trustworthy for sure. Um, and like I said, any red flags to look out for was just declining entries year over year. That would tell you something's going on there,
Hmm.
that people aren't happy, and so probably avoid that race. Um, but it's fun. I mean, entering one lofts, it is kind of like playing the lottery, but with slightly better odds. Wes, your
Better
statistician,
odds, but
Wes.
more expense.
Huh?
You got to balance it out. More, more chance to win, but a lot more expense.
Yeah. We talked about the entry fees, and that might be something also to consider. When you go to Win Companion and click on each race, if you go to the rules, each one loft race will have a rules. There'll be a tab on their website,
What's
and
one we can look at right quick that you?
any of them, and you can pull up any of them on that website that you were on the Win Companion. You can go to just click on the Longhorn right there. Doesn't matter. Or black and gold. Doesn't matter. Any of them's fine. But trying to see the rest of this page. All right, go to home, Wes.
That's where we're at.
That's where we're at. Should be rules down here somewhere. All right, so that is a flyer right there. He may not have his rules up for this season because his race just
It
ended.
may be up
But
here. Race info. Here we go.
oh yeah,
Rose.
let's see. Roll. Oh, there we go. Rules. Okay. Now he actually has it broken out too in between fees and rules. But if you're looking about to see what it costs to enter one loft race, notice here he says rule number one: perch fee, $130 non-refundable perch fee. So we talked about in our first episode what is a perch fee, right?
Hmm.
That's the money you have to send with the baby bird when you send it. Basically, he's going to use that money to medicate your bird, feed your bird, pay for his gas to train your bird, those kind of things. And then if you look at number four, entry fee. Entry fee is $450, right? Once your bird comes home from the 100-mile qualifier race or
Right.
the activation race, then you have to pay $450 per bird. Okay. Now there's a lot of other, information on his rules. We're not going to look at every race from that point is slightly different, but all of them are going to have a perch fee and an activation fee. So as you're researching, look at the fees, right? If you're a first-time one loft racer, you probably do not want to get into the Longhorn Classic because $450 is it's a middle of the road fee, but there are cheaper races, right? There are races where the fee is only $300. And if I'm a new
is that about the
flyer,
lowest?
yeah, I think there's some that are still 250 maybe, but they're getting
Okay.
pretty rare these days. We can
Gotcha.
probably find one though if I dug deep enough in the list. But again, look at the fees. What's it going to cost you to enter the race, right? If you're a new flyer and you don't know what your birds are capable of, you probably don't want to enter them into the Hoosier Classic, which is, like $800 a bird to enter.
Right.
I mean, you can if you want, but it's probably not the smartest thing to do. Look for some smaller races that are a little bit cheaper, but where you see the entries are increasing on a year-to-year basis, and that's probably where you would start with. And then as your birds start winning one loft races and you start to know what you've got, then you can step up and start entering some of the bigger, more expensive one loft races. But there is one loft races. I don't want to say there's one in every state, but we have one loft races all over the country. So you may even have a local one near you. And if you do, on the final race, what the one loft races do is they invite people to come and watch the final race.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And they usually have food and drinks. And heck, I think the Florida Pigeon Derby, they hire a band and a DJ. They have a stage. They have, and it's basically a party. Now, sometimes some races limit that to only participants in the race that can come and watch.
Right.
But if there's a one loft race near you and you're just curious, reach out to the manager. They all have an email address and a phone number on those web pages. Reach out to them and just ask, say, hey, would you mind if we stop by? We don't even need to eat. We just want to come by and see what this is all about, right? I bet most of them would
I would
welcome
think,
you.
yeah, think so.
Yeah.
So we're in the Carolinas. Is there one loft race here in the Carolinas?
There is the Tar Heel Classic, which is up in Rocky Point, I believe, Rocky Mount. One of them. It's
Point?
up
Rocky Mount.
Point. It's up 90. It's right up 95, north of Smithfield.
Yeah,
Smithfield.
Rocky Point is over by the coast. Smithfield north is Rocky Mount.
Rocky Mount, yeah. So it's up near there. That's all I know.
Tar Heel Classic.
Yep, Tar Heel Classic.
I actually just went by there. I was
Oh,
in
did you?
Richmond. Yeah.
Okay.
I-95, we take it to Richmond to family, and
Yep.
it ran.
So that's the closest one to us. Now there used to be one in the upstate called the AIC, the American International, but they don't have that race anymore. In fact, that race is actually up for sale. His property's up for sale. So if anybody has a spare $1 million,
watch out, Kevin.
Yeah.
So you got an
the key
auction
was
site
if
now. You
someone
got
has
a
a spare $1 million.
podcast. You got an auction site now. You got a podcast. What's next? Are we going to be a one loft race coming up in the future?
Don't think so, Wes.
Don't think so. You don't want to do that.
Don't have the money. Don't have the money for that. But yeah, so hopefully someone will buy that property and the loft and everything and start a one loft race up there in the upstate. That was actually a real good race. At one time, it was one of the biggest one loft races in the country, back 10, 15 years ago. But the owner just got, retired. And so the property's up for sale and everything.
Gotcha.
But there's a lot of one loft races. I give you the big states: Texas, Florida, California. That's where,
imagine that.
A lot. That's where a lot of one loft races are. Well, the odd thing is there's not a whole lot of one loft races in the Northeast. I believe there's one up in New England. There's one in New Jersey that I know of.
Is that weather driven, or it's just not big up there? I would think it's weather driven because the Midwest has it. Their weather can be.
Yeah, no, it's not weather driven. I believe the interesting thing in the Northeast is club racing is still more popular. The clubs in the Northeast, we'll maybe try to have some guests on that can talk about this, but the clubs in the Northeast have so many members. And so those clubs have a lot of their own special money races that their members can win money in. So I guess there's not a really a need up there that a flyer has said, hey, I need to start a one loft race. They're just they can fly so many club races that there's just not a need for one loft races, I guess. So there's just not a demand for them, Wes.
Watch out. Get us started in economics. We'll be here all day.
I know, right?
Speaking of which, we've come to the end of this one. So we'll join you again next week with our 3 segments. If you've got questions, please reach out to us. You can comment here on any of these links that you're finding on YouTube, Spotify. Hopefully it will be up on Apple Podcast by the time this is posted. You can also reach us by Gmail. And as soon as I say that, I have not learned the email yet. So have you learned it yet?
Wasn't it Racing Pigeon Podcast at
gmail.com? Racing Pigeon Podcast at gmail.com. Yep. That's
there we go.
I got too many
Pretty
emails
easy.
going in my head. So
yeah. Or you can message us on Facebook too. You can find us there.
Yes.
Just look up Racing Pigeon Podcast. We're everywhere.
Everywhere. All right. We will see y'all next time.